At my age, I can say that pain in the knees is not a simple discomfort. It is a constant companion that appears in the morning when I try to stand up, and that returns at night when I am about to go to sleep. Perhaps the same thing has happened to you, feeling that even though your mind wants to walk more, climb stairs, or go out for a stroll, your knees turn into a barrier that limits your freedom. For a long time, I looked for remedies. I listened to friends' advice, read about medical treatments, and tried painkillers that only soothed things for a few hours. However, not long ago, a different idea came to me. I said to myself, what if I try natural methods, the kind our grandmothers used? What if I give myself 7 nights to experiment with different oils, applying them directly to my knees, and then observe how I feel when I wake up each morning? That is how this little personal experiment was born. 1 week, 7 different oils, applied every night before going to sleep. From the most common ones, like olive oil or coconut oil, to others less usual, like castor oil or ginger oil. I wanted to find out on my own skin which of them offers real relief and which only leaves a fleeting sensation. I am not a doctor, nor do I claim to offer magic formulas. I am an older person who struggles with daily pain and who is looking for real and accessible solutions. Because I know that thousands of older adults like you and me live with this same discomfort in silence. And what I discovered in these 7 days left me with valuable lessons that I want to share with you today. At the end of this video, I will tell you which of these oils gave me the most relief when I woke up. It may surprise you, or it may confirm what you already suspected. But what matters is that together we can reflect on simple alternatives that can make a difference in our quality of life. Before starting with the first night, I would love to get to know you a little better. Tell me in the comments how many years old you are and from where you are watching this video. That way I will know how far these words are reaching, and I will be able to feel that I am not alone in this search. Why? Knee pain changes our lives. Knee pain is not a small detail we can ignore. When it appears constantly, it ends up changing every aspect of our life. It is not just about feeling a sting when climbing stairs or a crackling when we stand up from a chair. It is something that slowly steals freedom, independence, and even joy. Someone who has never felt it may think we are exaggerating, but those of us who suffer from it know that an ordinary day starts to change in a silent way. First, you avoid walking long distances. Then, you turn down invitations to family outings because you are afraid of being left behind. Even daily tasks like going to the market, hanging the laundry, or getting up several times during the night become real tests of resistance. I remember a good friend, Manuel, who at 75 years old still enjoyed walking through the park every morning. Over time, the pain in his knees became unbearable. At first, he cut back on his walks, then he started using a cane, and finally, he stopped going out altogether. He went from being an active and sociable man to someone who spent his days sitting by the window, watching others get on with their lives. That transformation was not only physical, but emotional as well. He lost contact with his friends, began to feel useless, and sadness accompanied him in silence. Chronic pain does not only affect the body, it changes your mood. It makes you more irritable, less patient, and gradually dims your motivation. It is hard to make plans when you know that afterward you will have to pay the price of intense pain. Many older people end up isolating themselves, not because they do not want company, but because they fear that others will not understand their limitations. If you have ever woken up with stiffness in your knees, you know exactly what I am talking about. That feeling that your body takes a long time to get going, that you have to massage, stretch, or simply wait for the joints to give in a little before starting the day. It is not just pain, it is the loss of confidence in your own body. Now then, why does all this happen? As the years go by, the joints naturally wear down. The cartilage, which works like a kind of cushion between the bones, becomes thinner. The ligaments lose elasticity, and the muscles that support the knee weaken. Every step becomes a reminder that time has left its mark. On top of that, osteoarthritis, inflammation, or old injuries that never fully healed often appear. The hardest part is that this process seems inevitable, but the way we face it can make a big difference. Some people accept the limitation as a fixed destiny, while others look for alternatives to maintain mobility and regain some of the lost confidence. And that is where simple experiments come in, like the one I carried out over 7 nights with different oils. It is not about a miraculous cure, but about small attempts at relief, about finding a bit of respite that allows us to move forward with more dignity and less pain. Knee pain changes life because it affects the most basic thing, our ability to move. And when we lose mobility, it is not only the body that becomes limited, but also the spirit. That is why it is so important to talk about it, to acknowledge it, and to look for options that help us feel a little better each day. Night 1. Olive oil. When I thought about which oil to choose for the first night, I had no doubts: olive oil. Throughout my life, I saw it on my family's table and on my grandparents' table, not only as an ingredient in Mediterranean cooking, but also as a home remedy passed down from generation to generation. In many villages, olive oil has been used for massages, to heal dry skin, to ease bruises, and even as a balm for muscle pain. It made sense to start there with something familiar, close, and full of history. That first night, I took a small amount of extra virgin olive oil and warmed it just a little between my hands. It did not need to be hot, just lose that chill the glass bottle sometimes has. Then I sat on the bed, bent my leg carefully, and began to rub the oil over my right knee. The texture was thick but smooth, and as I massaged, the skin became more slippery and shiny. I repeated the same process on the other knee, slowly, as if each movement were an invitation for my body to relax. The sensation when applying the oil was curious. There was no burning, no cold, no immediate effect like with other products that contain menthol or camphor. It was more neutral, calm, yet that very neutrality made it pleasant. The scent was soft, natural, with no added perfumes. In a way, that simplicity gave me confidence. It was like going back to the essentials, to something that had always been in the pantry, and that now was becoming a tool for self-care. After applying the oil, I put on light cotton pants so as not to stain the sheets. I lay down and tried to focus on my knees. I did not feel sudden relief, nor any miraculous strength. It was more like a subtle calm, as if the joint had received a warm hug. Falling asleep was easy. The massage routine had been, in itself, a relaxing act, almost like a small nighttime ritual. When I woke up, I noticed something different. The pain was still there, but not with the same intensity as other days. The first thing I noticed was the skin. It was much softer and more hydrated. That dryness that so often becomes more noticeable with age had completely disappeared. As for the stiffness, it had decreased slightly. It was not a drastic change, but enough to be evident. My knees gave way more quickly when I got out of bed, and the first step of the day was not as heavy as on other mornings. My conclusion after the first night was clear. Olive oil is not a strong remedy for deep pain, but it offers immediate and real comfort on the surface. It improves the skin, helps you relax, and in some way prepares the body to rest better. I could say that its benefit lies more in softness than in intensity, more in companionship than in transformation. And sometimes, in daily life, those gentle details are the ones that end up making a difference. Starting the experiment with olive oil left me with a positive feeling. It did not solve the underlying problem, but it reminded me that simple, steady, natural care can be a first step toward relief. It was only the beginning of this week of trials, and I knew that in the following nights there would be very different experiences, some surprising and others not so much. But that first night taught me that even the most ordinary, the most common, can still have a special value. Night 2. Coconut oil. For the second night, I chose an oil that has become very well known in recent years: coconut oil. For decades, it was considered just a cooking product, but in many parts of the world, especially in Asia, it has also been used as a treatment for the skin, hair, and even for massages. It is said to have mild anti-inflammatory properties, that it is easily absorbed, and that it can provide a feeling of relief in muscles and joints. With that idea in mind, it became the star of Night 2. The texture of coconut oil is different from the rest. In cold climates, it is usually solid, like a white butter that melts as soon as it comes into contact with the warmth of your hands. That first transformation already conveys something special, from solid to liquid in seconds, as if it responded to being cared for. When I rubbed it between my palms, the sweet tropical aroma filled the air. It was a huge contrast with the olive oil from the previous night, which was much more discreet. Coconut seemed to bring with it a memory of beach, sun, and rest. When I applied it to my knee, I immediately noticed a feeling of softness. My skin absorbed it quickly, as if it had been waiting for it. Massaging with coconut oil is neither heavy nor uncomfortable. It glides easily and does not leave the same density as some thicker oils. As I massaged, I began to feel a pleasant warmth that did not come from the oil itself, but from the constant movement and from how easily it penetrated the skin. It was a relaxing, even pleasurable experience. After covering both knees, I lay down calmly. The sensation as I went to sleep was comforting. The aroma lingered gently, and the skin was so hydrated that it looked younger. During the night, I did not feel any extra discomfort, which was already a small victory in itself. However, I was curious to see what would happen when I woke up, because the real test of this experiment was not what I felt while applying it, but how my body responded after resting. Morning came, and with it, the first conclusions. When I got out of bed, I noticed that my knees were softer than ever. The skin had a different kind of glow, and the dryness, which tends to worsen with age, had completely disappeared. However, in terms of deep pain, the improvement was limited. The morning stiffness was still there, although a bit more bearable than on other days. Coconut oil had done its job on the surface, moisturizing and providing a general feeling of comfort, but it did not seem to reach the point of offering real relief in the joint. My reflection after this second night is clear. Coconut oil is a wonderful ally for skincare and for creating a relaxing experience before sleep. It can help soothe and hydrate, but it does not seem to be the answer when what you are looking for is a significant reduction in joint pain. I would place it in the category of oils that pamper the body and spirit, rather than in the category of remedies for stiffness or inflammation. Even so, I would not dismiss its value. Sometimes in life, it is not only about eliminating pain, but also about finding small gestures that make everyday life more bearable. And coconut oil, with its softness and characteristic aroma, fulfilled that role. It was more of a caress than a solution, and that, in itself, is already important. Night 3. Castor oil. On the third night, I decided to try an oil I had always heard mentioned in home remedies, castor oil. For generations, it has been credited with the ability to reduce inflammation and relieve muscle and joint pain. Many people remember it as a strong, even controversial product, but in my case, I wanted to see for myself whether it could really make a difference in my aching knees. When I opened the bottle, the first thing I noticed was its density. It is not like olive oil or coconut oil. It is much thicker, almost like a liquid resin that slides slowly. When I took it in my hands, I felt it took a while to warm up and that it did not spread as easily. When I applied it to my knee, the texture was heavy, as if it left a thick layer covering all the skin. It was not completely uncomfortable, but definitely different from what I had tried on previous nights. The smell also caught my attention. It is not unpleasant, but it is peculiar. It has a strong, hard-to-describe scent that may be annoying for some people. In my case, it took me a few minutes to get used to it. I thought it might be a problem when trying to fall asleep, but I decided to continue with the experiment. I covered both knees well, massaged slowly so that the oil would penetrate as much as possible, and then lay down. What was curious was the sensation afterward. There was no coolness, no immediate warmth, no instant relaxing effect. It felt more like a quiet pressure, as if my knees were wrapped in a protective film. That thickness had something positive. It did not get absorbed all at once, but remained there, working for hours. Although the smell lingered, eventually tiredness won, and I managed to fall asleep. The surprise came in the morning. For the first time since I started the week of trials, I felt noticeable relief. It was not just softness in the skin, although that was also there. The important thing was that when I got up, the stiffness had clearly decreased. I could move my knees more easily, and the first steps of the day were not a battle. The difference was clear enough for me to realize that this oil really had reached beyond the surface. Not everything was perfect, of course. While applying it, I understood that not everyone would tolerate such a dense texture or such a particular smell. For some, it might be uncomfortable or even unpleasant. However, in my case, the results seemed encouraging. It was like discovering a secret hidden in a bottle that had always been within reach and to which few people pay attention. My reflection after this third night is that castor oil deserves a special place among natural alternatives. It is not the most comfortable to use, nor the eye or nicest to the nose, but it does seem to be one of the most effective in reducing the feeling of stiffness and bringing back some mobility. It left me with the impression of having found something truly useful, an interesting discovery that encouraged me to continue the remaining nights with renewed curiosity. Night 4. Mustard oil. For the fourth night, I wanted to take a bit more of a risk and try mustard oil. In India, it has been used for centuries as part of daily life, not only in cooking, but also in massages, rituals, and as a remedy to relieve muscle and joint pain. Its reputation comes from its intensity. It is not a neutral oil, but one that awakens the body with immediate force. I understood this from the very first contact. As soon as I rubbed it in my hands, I felt it release a penetrating, strong aroma with a spicy touch that brought to mind spices and warmth. When I applied it over my knee, the reaction was almost instantaneous, a heat that spread as if my skin were lighting a fire from within. It was not unbearable burning, but it was a sensation that forced me to pay attention. During the massage, that heat became deeper. My knees seemed to react with a kind of new energy. It was not relaxation, but something closer to activation, as if the oil were telling me, "Wake up, move, do not stay still." When I finished, my skin was red, and I had the impression that my circulation had clearly been stimulated. Sleeping was a different experience. I did not fall asleep right away because the sensation was still there. However, once the heat went down a bit, I was able to rest normally. The real surprise came the next morning. When I got up, I noticed more flexibility. My knees moved with less resistance, and the typical morning stiffness had diminished. It was not completely gone, but it was clearly better compared with previous nights. The only drawback was visible on the skin. There was redness that took a while to disappear. It was not painful, but it was a reminder that mustard oil is not suitable for everyone. More sensitive skin could suffer irritation or real discomfort. My conclusion after this fourth night was that mustard oil is powerful and effective for activating circulation and providing flexibility, but it must be used with caution. It can be too strong for some people, and it is not advisable to apply it without first testing a small area. Even so, it left me with the feeling that, in the right amount, it can become an interesting ally for those looking for warmth and movement in their tired joints. Night 5. Sesame oil. For the fifth night, I decided to return to something more balanced, sesame oil. This oil has been a fundamental part of Ayurvedic medicine for centuries, used in therapeutic massages known as abhyanga. According to that tradition, it helps nourish the body, calm the mind, and promote circulation. I was curious to see whether that reputation would show up in my own experience. The first contact was very different from that of the previous night. Sesame oil is light, fluid, and easy to spread. Its aroma is pleasant, soft, with a toasted note that inspires calm. When I massaged my knees, the sensation was completely different from the intensity of mustard oil. Here, everything was serenity, as if each movement of the hands invited rest. I noticed that my skin absorbed it well, without becoming sticky or excessively greasy. It was as if it blended naturally, without forcing anything. The massage turned into a relaxing, almost meditative moment. Unlike other nights, I did not feel intense warmth or marked coolness. I felt balance, a subtle yet constant effect. The most evident result came when I went to sleep. That night, I fell asleep with surprising ease. My mind was calm and my body relaxed. It is possible that the ritual itself helped, but I felt that sesame oil played an important role in that sense of peace. When I woke up, my knees felt lighter than usual. Morning stiffness was still there, but somewhat reduced. It was not as strong a change as with castor oil, nor as immediate as with mustard oil, but it was steady relief. My skin also appreciated it. It looked nourished, soft, and without irritation. My reflection after this 5th night is that sesame oil seems to work more on the connection between body and mind than on specific pain relief. It may not eliminate inflammation at its root, but it does provide serenity and comfort. For someone who is looking not only to move their knees better, but also to sleep more peacefully, sesame oil can be a great ally. Its calming effect is as valuable emotionally as it is physically. Night 6. Peppermint oil. For the 6th night, I chose an oil I already knew because of its refreshing fame: peppermint oil. It has long been used in massages thanks to its analgesic capacity, and many people apply it to the forehead to ease headaches. I wanted to know how my knees would react to that intense coolness. As soon as I rubbed it between my hands, it released a penetrating, mentholated, almost medicinal aroma. It was a strong smell, one of those that instantly wake up your mind. When I applied it on the skin of my knees, I felt an immediate freshness running down my leg. It was like submerging the joint in cold water, but without the pain that ice can cause. That coolness was so powerful that it became the absolute star of the massage. For several minutes, the effect intensified. I felt the area slowly becoming numb, as if my mind stopped registering the pain. There was no warmth, no pressure, just a constant freshness that invited rest. When I lay down, the coolness was still there, and although it took me a bit of time to get used to it, I ended up falling asleep fairly easily. Morning brought me to a clear conclusion. Peppermint oil works like a natural, fast-acting painkiller. The morning pain was milder, and stiffness seemed to have softened. However, that sensation lasted only a few hours. Around midday, the pain came back with its usual intensity. It was evident that peppermint oil provides immediate relief, but not long-lasting relief. My reflection after this 6th night is that peppermint oil can be a great resource at specific times, such as when the pain is very strong and we need quick respite. However, I do not see it as a long-term solution. It is a temporary ally, more useful for soothing than for transforming. And even if it does not offer a lasting effect, that ability to bring immediate relief should not be underestimated, because sometimes a few hours of rest are worth more than anything. Night 7. Ginger oil. The 7th and last night of my experiment was reserved for a very special oil: ginger oil. For centuries, it has been used in Eastern medicine to combat inflammation and stimulate circulation. I had always heard that ginger has a warming power capable of penetrating beyond the surface. When I rubbed the oil in my hands, the spicy, warm aroma of ginger was released at once. It was not as strong as mustard oil, nor as cool as peppermint oil, but it had an interesting balance. When I applied it to my knee, I felt a gentle warmth that slowly intensified. It was not aggressive heat, but a deep warmth that seemed to reach into the joint itself. The massage became a pleasant moment. As I spread the oil, I felt the stiffness yielding, at least in my immediate perception. When I lay down, that warmth was still there, wrapping my knees in a kind of inner blanket. I slept peacefully, without interruptions, with the feeling that my body was truly receiving deeper care. The next morning was revealing. When I got up, I noticed less stiffness than on any of the previous nights. My knees moved more easily, and the feeling of heaviness had diminished. It was not a miraculous cure, but it was the clearest improvement of the entire week. I was able to walk more confidently and even perform some movements without the immediate fear of pain. My reflection after this 7th night is that ginger oil was one of the most effective of the entire experiment. Its penetrating warmth not only soothed the surface, but also seemed to reach deeper, offering real mobility upon waking. I believe it deserves a prominent place among the oils that can help people with joint pain, always remembering that it does not replace medical treatment, but can be a valuable complement. Overall comparison of the 7 oils. After 7 full nights of trials, it was time to look back and compare each experience. I could say it was like building a mental chart, organizing the oils from the gentlest to the most intense. At the gentlest end, I found olive oil and coconut oil. Both are excellent for moisturizing the skin, providing comfort, and giving immediate respite. Olive oil conveys calm and trust, while coconut oil adds a sweet aroma that relaxes. However, in terms of deep joint pain, their effects were limited. They are ideal for people with dry skin or those who are looking for a simple act of care before going to sleep. A little higher, I would place sesame oil. Its action is not as obvious in the joints, but it is in the mind. It was the one that helped me most to fall asleep and to feel serenity. I would recommend it to those who need emotional calm as well as softer stiffness. Peppermint oil occupies a special place. It is the most useful for quick relief. Its coolness numbs the pain and brings immediate rest, although it does not last very long. It is ideal for those nights when the pain is sharp and you cannot wait, but it does not replace a long-term treatment. In the category of the most intense oils, I place mustard oil, castor oil, and ginger oil. Mustard oil offers immediate warmth and a feeling of activation, but it can be too strong for sensitive skin. Castor oil, although dense and with a peculiar smell, surprised me with its ability to reduce morning stiffness. And finally, ginger oil, with its penetrating warmth, was the one that gave me the greatest improvement in mobility and confidence when walking. Thus, the overall comparison shows that there is no single absolute winner. Each oil offers something different: hydration, calm, coolness, warmth, quick relief, or deep relief. The choice depends on the person, their skin type, the intensity of their pain, and what they are looking for at that moment. Lessons this experiment left me. When I finished this week of trials, I understood something fundamental. It is not enough to read about remedies or listen to other people's experiences. You have to dare to test them on yourself. Each body is unique, and what feels wonderful to some may be barely noticeable to others. That was the first great lesson. The second lesson was the importance of patience. None of the oils worked like a magic wand capable of erasing years of wear in a single night. The results were small steps, sometimes barely noticeable, but together they made a difference. I learned to observe carefully, to take note of the sensations, and to value changes that at another time I would have overlooked. I also understood that pain is not only physical, it is emotional. Sesame oil, for example, did not transform my knees, but it transformed my rest. Peppermint oil did not last all day, but it gave me a few very valuable hours of relief. And that led me to value consistency more than immediacy. That is why I want to share a simple message. Do not look for miracles, look for consistency. Daily care, small gestures, self-care routines are what make the difference over time. The pain may not disappear, but we can learn to live with it in a more dignified and less painful way. After 7 nights, I can say that this experiment left me with more than just a simple comparison of oils. It left me with the certainty that it is worth trying, observing, and learning from your own body. If I had to choose the oil that gave me the most relief, I would go with ginger oil. It was the one that most clearly reduced stiffness and allowed me to move more confidently the next day. However, that does not mean I would dismiss the others. Castor oil taught me that even an unattractive oil can be effective. Mustard oil showed me the power of warmth. And olive, coconut, sesame, and peppermint oils reminded me that there is also value in softness, calm, and temporary relief. My advice to you is that before trying any of these oils, you talk to your doctor, especially if you have skin problems or specific health conditions. Do a small test in a limited area to make sure there are no adverse reactions. And above all, do not neglect the habits that truly strengthen your knees. Walking carefully, doing gentle exercises, maintaining a healthy weight, and always listening to what your body needs. Never stop looking for ways to improve your life, even in the details. Sometimes a small change in your nightly routine can give you an unexpected break. And although each person reacts differently, the simple fact of trying is already a way of taking care of yourself. Before I say goodbye, I would love to get to know you a bit more. Tell me in the comments how many years old you are and from where you are watching this video. And if you have ever tried any oil or home remedy for your knees, share that as well. That way we keep learning together, because one person's experience can be another person's relief.